Okay, bonjour Gunjan, bonjour Shashank. Um, okay, before we begin with the questions, I would like to go through some information, some basic information on the TEF exam, how to crack the TEF Canada examination. This is what this webinar is about. However, let's take a quick look at what the TEF exam is itself. So I'm going to start with the scoring first because I know that is primarily everybody's aim to score a certain level in the exam. It's almost as if the score comes before the exam itself. So yeah, you have the score sheet in front of you. Now, this section scores TEF entre le 1er octobre 2019 et le 10 décembre 2023. Those, as the dates suggest, were the old score systems. However, from 11th December 2023, they have a new scoring system, which I think now everyone would be familiar with. If you aren't, here it is. And here we have Niveau NCLC. Now we are more accustomed to saying CLB levels. Ideally, they're both aligned and Canadian language benchmark. And NCLC is Niveau de compétence linguistique canadien. So NCLC is targeted more for tests like TEF Canada and TCF Canada. It has the same NCLC level like 1 to 12, just as CLB does. So it is similar to CLB, but for French used in immigration, like express entry, or you have your Quebec programs, etc. So most of the students try and aim for the CLB 7. We are going to call it CLB because it's a generalized term now, but CLB 7 and NCLC 7 are aligned. Now, as for the structure or the pattern of the exam, again, we have 4 modules or 4 sections. We have the reading comprehension, wherein it lasts for 60 minutes. There are 40 questions. All of them, as you can see, are out of 699 points. The reading comprehension, to put in simple terms, is simply you will come across passages of different lengths and different topics in French. And based on those passages, you have questions. You have multiple choice questions which you have to answer. So you read and you answer relevant questions. Same with listening comprehension, only instead of reading anything, you read the questions, but you listen to audios of different lengths, of different difficulties, of different levels, and different topics, and you answer relevant questions. For oral expression, which is basically like an oral exam or speaking exam. So speaking, of course, has 2 tasks. One is shorter in length, the other is longer. So we have 15 minutes, so you can guess one is 5 minutes, the other is 10 minutes. We can call them for the moment section A and section B. One is a formal conversation, the other is informal. Again, 699 points. And lastly, you have the written expression or the writing test, or in French, they call it production écrite. Basically, again, 2 tasks, one shorter, the other long, of different types. One is a short elaboration on a given prompt. The other is an argumentative letter. And of course, you have 60 minutes. That seems to be the standard. Once more, 699 points. So this is the structure of the TEF exam. I'm highlighting the word TEF because here are speakers today, Gunjan and Shashank, they have given the TEF exams.
So just one small thing. I think listening comprehension is 40 minutes, isn't it?
Yes, let me cross-check that once. Yes, it is 40 minutes. Thank you for the correction. So we'll start with the most obvious question. Can you please tell us your scores?
So scores means like exactly scores or just CLB levels?
If you could, you can tell us your CLB level and then elaborate on the scores of each module.
Okay, so just give me 1 second. Actually, I don't have them here. Yeah, so my scores are as follows. Comprehension écrit. Okay, so the new format, Comprehension écrit 457, which is B2 NCLC 7. Comprehension oral 602, which is C2 NCLC 11. Expression écrite 529, which is C1 NCLC 9. and Expression Oral 471, which is B2 NCLC 7.
Splendid. Thank you. Congratulations, first of all.
Thanks.
All right. Gunjan, would you tell us yours?
Yeah, mine comprehensive accrete was 450, which was B2 NCLC 7, and comprehensive OHAL was 475, which is again B2, but NCLC 8,
Mm-hmm.
and Expressio accrete was 519, which is C1 NCLC 9, and Expressio OHAL was 488, which is B2 in NCLC 7.
Lovely. So the next question, again, I would ask it to both of you. I'll ask Gunjan first. Or basically, when you started learning French for the exam, were you a complete beginner? And if you could, how long did it take you to reach the B2 level?
Uh, yes, I was completely beginner. I didn't study French at all, like in school or college. And actually, in terms of time, I think I started in like quite breaks, to be very frank, because I started my preparation like 2 years back. I joined the course, but I did not study. But so eventually, I think in 24, 6, 7 months before giving the exam, that time I started when I actually started preparing, and 4, 5 months in 2023. So to sum up, around a year effectively when I started and gave the exam. Yeah.
Okay. And same question for you, Shashank. Were you a complete beginner?
No, I started, I was like maybe 2023 or something. At that time, I was beginner only. But I was working at the same time, so I couldn't like have this continuous preparation. So I would prepare for 2 months and then would take a gap. I was preparing on my own only, and because of the gap, I had to revise. So instead of going forward, I had to again go back and forth because the gaps were huge. So I think in all seriousness, I probably, I mean, I had some knowledge, but with respect, complete focus on exam, I started, I think, 2024 June, that I had in my mind that I'm going to take the exam in like 6 months or so. And then I think, yeah, in 2025 January, I took my exam.
Again, that's good. So Shashank, how many, let's say instead of months, how many hours per day would you say did you dedicate to studying French or preparing for the exam?
I think when I was in the zone for preparation, I would like spend like maybe 5, 6, 7 hours. Like I didn't think about anything else. So continuously do mostly writing, grammar practice. Speaking was probably I started at the end, and little bit of reading and here and there. So whenever I got time, it would be like whole day, 5, 6, 7 hours. I would be just studying French.
I see that's, you know what they say, obsession beats talent. You had something like that, I think. Yeah. Fair enough. Same question for you, Gunjan.
Yeah, I think last year when I started in July, basically. So my idea was to give the exam in December, first attempt. So yeah, even I studied for 6, 7 hours. That's an average. Even I used to study like 5, sometimes 6, 7. But like this is the minimum I used to study, including sometimes passive listening also, but including everything. Yeah.
That's good. That's actually very motivating. And since you spoke about attempts, I would also like to ask what were your timelines between, let's say, the first attempt and the final attempt, if you had one?
So I gave my first attempt in December, and actually wanted to go for reevaluation because I think my score was and my preparation was good enough for that, but somehow that was not possible, and there were not clear guidelines also on the reevaluation. So I gave the exam in January then.
Okay, interesting. And Shashank?
No, for me, fortunately, in the first attempt itself, I cleared the exam.
Okay. So this one's more for Gunjan. So you explained to us that the gap was because of the reevaluation that you wanted, but that couldn't take place. So I would say in your case, it was a conscious decision to keep a gap.
Uh, Actually, the thing is, there are some like the few centers they say they have to keep the gap of 2 months
Mm.
before you appear for the exam. So I actually contacted like almost every center in order to get the dates for the exam. And there was also some, I would say, sheer bad luck also because there was a year end and they were no one picking up the phone and responding to my emails. So actually, it was in January first week I got to know that I have to give the exam. So till the time even I did not have any clear guideline, and every center has their own set of rules for the same. So I gave the exam in the different center than the second time.
Mm. Okay. And I don't know, but I'm not sure if you remember the scores from your first attempt at the exam. Do you see a
Uh,
difference?
yeah, actually my reading and writing was reading it was the same B2, and my listening was C1, and in speaking I couldn't go through. The rest is the same, similar.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so this is another interesting question for meant for both of you. So how was your exam day experience? So reflect the actual judgment day.
With me, I had like some personal problem because what happened is like my father got hospitalized at that time, literally one day ahead. So I was like stressed out, and I was like, I'm not going to pass the exam anyways. So just go and like take the exam, and whatever happens, you just be prepared for another attempt. If you ask me, center experience was good. People, I took it at a church gate in Bombay, Alliance Francis Churchgate, and people were very nice. The staff was very nice and helpful. So no problem on that part. But yeah, because of stress, I made some mistakes, but fortunately, that didn't affect anything.
So I'm really sorry to hear about that. First of all, I hope your father was okay.
Yeah, he's
Fair
fine.
enough.
But
Fair enough.
I would like to point out one thing, like as Gunjan said, like about the generally Alliance Francaise centers. I mean, as a personally, the center experience on the day was good. But if you generally call them and ask the questions, I feel like the staff is not very well informed. They didn't know the timings, and so I had to email that CCI of France body
Mm,
who conducts the exam to ask them how much gap exactly do I need to give, and they said it's 30 days maximum. That's more than
mm.
enough if you want to. So because different centers might tell you different things and all. So I would suggest generally if you're planning on taking the exam, at least 1.5 months before try taking dates, because at the last moment dates won't be available. They really finish up fast.
Okay, and Gunjan, how was your exam day experience?
I think in terms of center, if I say so, stay in Bangalore right now, so there's no center here. So my first attempt was in Hyderabad, and the second was in Bhopal. I think my first attempt, my speaking was the first section which I appeared for, and according to me, it was the best. I think I was very confident. I did all the checkpoints. I just clicked all that, and but somehow that is the only section in which I didn't go through, like get through. It was not B2 plus, and so I don't know what happened wrong there. I want to stress this out because in all my mock exams, I was C1, C1 everywhere, and I gave mock with different people as well, with BBarters and the other tutors as well. So, but uh, in the second attempt, my speaking was the last, and there also I was extremely nervous back because that was the same pain point for me initially. But overall, I think it was fine. You just have exam nervousness, but when you're prepared enough, it's like good to go.
Definitely, I agree there. So speaking of from your experience, from your responses, I would like to ask that was there a particular section that you found the most challenging in the exam?
For me, I think in my preparation also, it was listening. I feel. I know because the if we see the reading and the writing are the sections which we can actually have some control over the exam because there's not much issue of the time also if you have practiced enough of the writing. But in the speaking and the listening, you have to be like very instant and then spontaneous, and uh, you just can't miss a second, especially for the listening. There's just like so many questions and like again not much gap in that. And same goes for the speaking because you have to be very quick. So for me, I think listening was always the difficult part. And when I started preparing, I think I had 6, 7 months before giving the exam. So in those 6 months, prior to that, I never did listening. So I started listening quite late, and same goes for the speaking also.
Fair enough, understandable. And Shashank, what section did you find the most challenging?
So for me, again, the two most challenging sections were, which initially I thought like listening would be more difficult. And when I started listening, it was of course difficult. But as within like few weeks and all, I could get the grasp. I could focus properly. My concentration was good. But the speaking part was probably the most difficult. So that's why I had to do a lot of speaking sections. Actually, I mean, I must say this: like practicing with BBarters actually was quite good for me. I mean, that gave me more confidence because I had tried different teachers with on italki and all, but many times different teachers have so many different strategies that you yourself get confused. Problem. So I would suggest probably sticking with just one teacher and following the strategies is rather good than trying too many different teachers.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Uh,
So on that note, actually, I would
mm,
even like to ask because you did mention you had you of course followed the speaking workshop that we have at
mm,
BBarters, and you had additional tutors help you out as well.
mm.
So on an average, how many total number of practices would you say you did for speaking or even writing?
Speaking for writing, I can say I remember the number. I don't remember the time exactly, but I wrote almost 40 more 40 essays and 40 fediver. And every time I used to correct it on generally AI, ChatGPT. So 40 was good enough. For speaking, on what I did was when I started speaking, I didn't jump into TEF speaking. I wanted to get fluency. So I just joined some tutors. I told them that I wanted to take TEF, but I'm not fluent enough. So I wanted to get fluency. So we could just talk on different topics in French, whether it's politics, whether it's sports or anything. So initially I was slow, but then I became faster and I could understand things. And so when I understood that, okay, even if it's any topic generally, whether it's politics, sports, geography, history, I can hold a conversation in French, then I shifted to TEF specific thing. So I guess around maybe 15 sessions I spent on for fluency, and then I shifted to TEF related modules.
Okay, lovely. And I think, yeah, the speaking workshop practices are a certain number.
Hmm.
So, yes, those we can take into account. And same question for Gunjan.
For writing, I think I almost done around 50, both the sections. Uh, and For the speaking, actually, I do not remember the number of exercises, but yeah, what I did, I practiced a lot for that. The reason being is I never had speaking partner initially because of my own inconsistency in preparation. But when I started preparing, then same on italki, I had a tutor. So initially, I had the conversation with the like general topics just to overcome that hesitation of speaking and have some fluency and more grammar. And I also did French immersion session by BBarters at that time. So actually, did speaking with the tutor and also on my own. Once I had the confidence, I used to record my own voice and then again hear it, like where I'm lacking, whether I'm able to ask the questions and everything. So maybe around 30, 40, I do not remember the exact number, but maybe around that, yes.
That's a good number anyway. It's a good, I would say, an estimate of how many. It's not just about the number of practices, but the repetitions that help you reinforce it.
Yes.
And since you mentioned tutors or you mentioned the lack of a study partner, so Shashank, did you have a study partner? If you did it? How did it help?
I mean, in a way, yes. I live in IIT Gandhinagar, Indian Institute of Technology. So we have a student who is from Mauritius, and his mother tongue is French.
Creole, I'm guessing, but very similar to French.
Yeah, and even he can speak both fluently. So for conversation and all, mostly we had that. I mean, for speaking and all, I didn't do TEF related speaking as such, but mostly regular speaking and all.
And just
And
a small counter question, like, did it make a difference whether practicing your speaking, no matter the TEF related or normal fluency speaking. Notice practicing with a person whose first language is French versus a person just like you and I, whose French is probably the fourth or fifth language.
So, I mean, the point is, if you're doing it with a someone whose first language is not French, first of all, they know what kind of mistakes you can make, and people are more patient with the learning curve. They are not like, because if it's mother tongue, then it's very natural for the person to speak, and they are not going to be very patient. And some things are very easy for them, and like conjugation may be very natural to them, and we might struggle with conjugations and all. So yeah, so that one thing I always
I
notice,
agree.
like.
So coming to another question was because we were talking about speaking and at BBarters we do offer these workshops for speaking, even for writing. So I would like to ask, even for us, even for other students here who have joined, who are also part of the workshops or the program in general. So what helped you the most from BBarters programs? Whichever programs you were part of, they could be multiple. So, what helped you the most when it comes to preparation and in your success? So, Gunjan, if you could answer.
I joined editor sessions and the immersion. Actually, it helped me a lot because there was a huge gap between when I resumed my studies, and as I mentioned, there was no speaking partner, so I did not practice speaking enough. So it helped me to overcome that barrier and basically to be in that environment for an hour or so and just to listen to how people are saying and what the pronunciation and how things work and the way you need to say particular words or the phrases. So I think it really helped me a lot. So once I felt okay, I'm probably I'm just much closer to exam, then I resumed TEF related studies, or I would say speaking. But yeah, I joined these sessions and for me they were quite helpful.
That's very good to hear. I'm glad. Thank you very much for your kind words. And same question for Shashank.
So I had joined, I guess, speaking workshops and test series. So speaking workshops, of course, were very helpful because the pattern in which they were conducted, very professional, and plus the ratings given at the end. So you know where you stand, which mistakes you make. If in section A, if you're not asking enough questions, or is there a grammar mistake, or there is a fluency mistake, so you can generally overcome. With respect to italki, that is the problem. I mean, there may be some good teachers, but they're not going to give you very detailed feedback. So you're going to get a little bit confused, where should I improve or not and all. So that kind of systematic structure was very helpful, and that probably gave me a lot of confidence. And with respect to test series, yeah, test series, actually, one mistake I made, I took the test literally 3 days before my actual test, which is not advisable because you should at least take it 2 3 weeks before your actual test. And so I was very nervous. What if I don't score well on mock tests and all? And then because I don't have any time to improve. So, but I mean, they were fine. I did P2 or C1 in mock test, but I would, of course, advise that at least 2 to 3 weeks before your actual test, so that you can improve if you're making some mistake.
Sorry, I would
Um,
also like to add one thing
yeah, go
here.
ahead.
For the test series, actually, I forgot to mention. I took that, and actually, he's very right. The feedback is so detailed, and on iTalk you do not get that. So for the speaking and writing, you actually get to know, where you are lacking and probably what are your strength and the weakness. Like whether it's the pronunciation or maybe in the writing, your grammar is not correct and all those things. So I think when you're preparing, you should definitely go for these mock tests apart from the other prep my future and everything because it's very detailed and you do not and the teachers also like there if you're taking 4 mock tests, I took 4 mock tests, so it's like two from speaking from a different teacher and the two from the other. So that way you just get to practice with different number of people because with one tutor it's almost like you get used to hearing and their way of talking, so this way you are practicing more and with different people, so it gives you an extra edge in the exam.
So I have another question, which is, well, the most asked questions, no matter where you are, in your learning journey is how do you retain French vocabulary come across when you're preparing, when you're picking mock tests and you come across something new, something that wasn't part of your preparation. So how do you retain it?
So I had a vocab register, so I maintained that like from my initial practice itself. So I used to go back to it again and again whenever. The way you can retain is just by using it. Like there are multiple ways to say a particular thing, or maybe the verbs are different verbs to say something to it. That way you can use the phrases which can gives you extra score in that and probably can. So what I used to do, I used to just make some chits and all like and paste it on the wall when I'm preparing. So that way I just prepare that way. Maybe these are the words I can use in the speaking or maybe for some particular topics. And same went for the writing also. So I made a sort preparation or the writing style of my own. Like this is the way I'm going to
I agree.
start. So
And Shashank, did you do something differently or was it similar for you?
So I'm very unorganized in that way. So I never had any notes ever. I mean, that is not again advisable because everyone has their own way of studying. Notes. The only thing that was written was basically my essays and all, which I saved for future references, faits divers, essays, etc. But I had a very different technique basically to retain words, mnemonics, like connecting something day-to-day life objects or something like that. However illogical it may be. For example, if I remember, I mean, just want to give one example. Like I guess begaye is one verb which basically means stuttering. I guess I'm not. So basically, begaye is very similar to begging in English. So begging is like when you're begging something, you're stuttering basically because you're ashamed. So that way I connect it. I know it's very illogical, but somehow brain registers it very well.
Yeah, if it makes sense to you, then it's a personal logic, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's an algorithm, and you stuck to it and work for you. To
yeah.
end my round of questions, I would definitely like to ask you if you have any tips for our students who are currently learning French to succeed in the TEF and also TCF exams.
So, I mean, I can say that if someone is starting with zero level, then I would suggest don't like give yourself a timeline. If you're fully immersed, it might take 10 months to a year. But again, it may not be the case. In my case, like I couldn't be completely focused. I had to have a long gaps and all. So I took more time. Try to read French newspapers or French books. Edito is a very standard book which is very good for enriching vocabulary and all. But there are other websites, Le Monde, or listen to French audios. You always engage in some kind of reading, writing, listening that will give you the feel that you have learned something.
That's a very lovely take on this actually. Because and Gunjan, what about you? Do you have any tips?
um, I think you just have to be consistent in practice and because whenever you have long gaps, you sort of feel disconnected also from the language, which like when you are in that flow of learning, there comes a time when you actually start enjoying the language, especially once you are bit like B1 level or A to B1 level, then you get to understand and listen, then you are able to make out what the other person is saying. So I think if you diversify your sources, like as he mentioned, just read from like I read two short stories book because I think by newspaper I was not able to read and engage myself much reading that. So I read short stories and some just newspaper articles or on the website. And for the listening also, even I diversified all the sources. Like I did some radios like Radio Canada Info, maybe the RFE and the other stations and the podcast. I think I listen to more than 100 podcasts. And if you're able to study for 5, 6 hours, I think the 1 year is a good timeline to clear the exam very easily. You can do that.
Thank you. That was also very helpful. So that marks the end of my questions.